This thing on? Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yeah. Should you practice art? Or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it. Not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, you know? The one that's gonna be a master. The one that's more than a rapper. The one that's an educator. The one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts. He's got the mindset expansive. He understands that his time combined with travel and concepts makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan.
Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This show that you are watching right now is Comics Today, a show that we do on Wednesday to celebrate the best day of the week, that being New Comic Book Day. And I had somebody put up a message earlier asking if people still read comics. Yes, they do, and this show is a celebration of people actually reading comics, because one of the first things we're going to do in this show, like we do every single week, is to go to the live chat to see what it is that you all may have picked up at your LCSs. And if you read something that was good, we definitely want to know that so we can put that on the top of our reading stacks. If you picked up a book that is not a new book, but it is a new to you book, we want to know about that as well. That way we can live vicariously through you actually spending money. If you want to shout out your LCS, feel free to do that. But as part of this show, yes, we talk about some of the new comics that come out. I'll show you some of the books that I actually picked up. I think I have them here on the table. We typically have a guest or two on as well to help me to make sense of something that is happening in the world of comics and collectibles. And then we also talk about news and events, and we always have a good time. And fingers crossed, this show will be like all of the others that we have done in the past. Let me go to the chat real quick to see what it is that you guys may have picked up at your LCSs. Go ahead and shout it out. Throw it up in the chat. Let me know what you guys snagged. And I don't know who made the comment about not collecting ASM, and they don't have an ASM 110, the first appearance of the Gibbon. I think it was Steve White. You need to conform, sir. You need to conform to how we do things here. Everybody has to have ASM 110. That's not true. But the pastor may end up getting one. You cannot go wrong with a little bit of ASM 110. Do not pay an arm and a leg for it. I will tell you that right now. Pastor, he says, picked up Werewolf by Night 32, First Moon Knight, and Moon Knight 1 through 5, Volume 1. That's what's up. There you go. Congrats to you, brother. That is good stuff. TMX, how you doing, brother? It's good to see you. He says, I got ASM Nightwing 105 in Carnage. That's what's up. I'm not going to... Turbo Tie, you a snitch, brother. You a snitch, but I'm good. We are good with that. Like, we have to call people out when they get it wrong. That's what we do, and we will not be shy about it. Matt Woods, one of the Blue Wrenches, is up in here. It's good to see you, brother, as always. My Canadian brother, Mark, how you doing? He says, Local Man 5, Blue Book 5, The Seasons have teeth. I have never heard of that, and I will tell you, it sounds very creepy. The Neighbors 4, Sunshine Patriots, he says, very few this week. If you watch my reel earlier today, you have to say very, very, because when you add the extra very, it just underscores everything. The extra very is critically important. Jason, how you doing, brother? He says, he picked up Local Man 5, Blue Book 5. Did you just copy and paste what Mark put up there? Vanish 8, ASM 28, Ghost Rider 15, and a lot more. That's what's up. Scrolling through, my man Phil Tastic is up in here. It's always good to see you, brother. Just had a conversation with Phil a few moments ago on the Instagram. If you are not following me there, I definitely encourage you guys to do so. Doug is on the board. He says, snag 2 graphic novels without pictures from those are called books, sir. A graphic novel without pictures is just called a novel, aka book. We don't talk about non-comic books here, sir. We don't do that here because this is a celebration. Doug's trying to slide it in there, talking about 2 graphic novels without pictures. Scrolling through the comments here. How you doing, Sad Villainy? Hey, Reggie. Had the pleasure of going to the Berkeley Man, that is one of my favorite shows. Berkeley Comic Show this last Saturday and picked up a lot of heat. He says, most notably, I picked up a lot of good. You said the word heat twice, sir. You picked up some good stuff. The Berkeley Comic Show is one of my favorite shows. There's no cosplay. There's no shenanigans. It is dealers and books. That is it. Wall books, long boxes. It is a great show. If you were ever in the area of Berkeley and can swing by the Berkeley Comic Show, I highly recommend it. I absolutely love that show. How you doing, brother? He said he picked up ASM. Which one, brother? Which one you picked up? Grabbed an ASM 9.0, but which issue, sir? Which issue did you pick up? Either way, congrats to you. You cannot go wrong. You cannot go wrong with picking up some ASM. Scrolling through, Shortboxed is on the board here. Shortboxed is shouting out, local man is awesome. Clearly, I need to step up my game and actually read it because I have not read that. Scrolling through some of the comments here, seeing what else you guys are talking about. Also, the Ambassadors is not bad. I think I'm on like issue 4 maybe. I may have lied a little bit, but I have been reading the Ambassadors, no doubt about that. Very, very creepy. There you go. The extra very underscores everything. It really does. Now I know that it is actually creepy because of the second very. It matters. It matters a great deal. A couple of things that I'll show you guys. I picked up some. The folks over at Skybound sent me this stack of Tenement. This is a creepy read. It is a very, very creepy read. I've been sending some of these copies out to Patreon members. I have a couple more that I'm going to try to get out of here. I don't know what that says. Swan Song, maybe. Swan Song. There you go. Swan Song. These just arrived today from Image Skybound. They sent me another box today. And got a nice stack of this Weird Work issue number 1. I've never heard of that one before, but that is a very interesting color and definitely an interesting color palette right there. And they also sent over the Untold Tales of I Hated Fairyland. I'm going to guess that involves fairies and a theme park of some sort. But that is a stack of books that the folks over at Skybound sent me that I'm going to be finding a way to give back to the community. A couple of books that I picked up from my LCS, my local LCS, Steelworks. I read it and I don't know how I feel about it just yet, but grab that Spider-Man issue number 7. I think that's the second printing. I think I paid cover price for that, so I don't feel bad about picking it up for cover price. Here's another cover for Steel. Really cool cover right there. I think I paid like $19 for that one. It's just a cool cover. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 25. This is issue number 26, the spoiler variant right there. Here's the regular cover. And then the last book that I picked up was Miles Morales issue number 6. So that is my little stack of books that came in from my LCS Nirvana. Shout out to Grant and the rest of the team for taking care of me. Let me see what you got. 6 Steel. It is not a bad cover. I was going through the online portal that I order from, and I was like, I am absolutely getting that one right there. He messages me back and he's like, are you sure? Are you sure you want this one? Because here's how much it is. I'm like, dude, throw it in the stack. We'll make that magic happen. At the time, I had not read it, so I was hoping that it was going to be good. And I don't think that I finished reading it. A couple of announcements here that I will tell you guys about. Do I think that Spider-Boy will take off? No. Spider-Boy may actually be featured in a couple of videos in which I say, do not buy this book. Here's the thing. I believe that there are a lot of really great characters that are coming out. And I believe that because of FOMO, some of these books that come out have, some accelerated pricing that goes on with them. And I think that if people are patient, they can actually wait for those books to come back down to earth. And that is the time to actually pick them up if you are actually interested in buying the book at that point, And this is not a criticism because I've spent my time, my fair share of time chasing down books and only to find time and time again that those books that come out that you then see on eBay the same day for 2, 3, 4, 5 times the amount of money on the same day that it was released, oftentimes will drop precipitously. And if you're still interested in that book at that time, that is the time to get it, right? Not when it is going for crazy amounts of money, more than the actual cover price. Will Spider-Boy take off? Who the heck knows, right? I will tell you, generally speaking, when we looked at 40 years worth of blue chip comics, it generally takes about 10 years for a character, for a blue chip comic, to really start to see some growth, right? Where that book is now established, right? A book that still has the ink wet on it, not so much, not so much. Now, buy what you want. It's your money, it's your collection. You do what you want. But that question, I think, was directed at me. So that's how I choose to answer that. Isolation issue number 4 is officially done. All of the pages have been drawn and inked and lettered. It is with the proofreader right now. I am expecting to get it back from the proofreader, Liz, on Wednesday. Once that happens, we are going to get it into the pre-press and then off to the printer. We are getting closer and closer to dropping this book, and I cannot wait to get issue 4 of Isolation out the door. The pages look incredible. They really do. Chase has done a fantastic job, and technically Delia has also done a fantastic job on this, because they collaborated on the book, and then on, I think, on a specific page, it was like divided between the two. It's really cool stuff. We cannot wait for you guys to see this stuff. The other thing that I am very excited about, I'm excited to get Isolation out here. The other thing that I'm really excited about is I have a new desk coming. Why is this exciting? It is because the desk that I have here is rickety. It is a rickety desk, not very stable, and it sits on carpet. And occasionally when I film videos or I do live streams, you can see the desk actually move when I touch it. And my neighbor Neil pointed this out to me one time, and I almost lost it, because I see it. I watch it. I know that the desk is moving, that the camera is moving. I don't need you to tell me that. So I almost lost it. But we went, and my wife gave me a gift certificate. She said, go buy yourself a desk, because I'm cheap. I bought a desk. It gets delivered on Friday. I am keeping my fingers crossed that that sucker is going to be stable. So I'm walking through IKEA like a nut, and I'm shaking every desk. I think people thought I was crazy, because I needed it to be stable. So I'm walking around IKEA shaking every single desk that I could find. Gaming tables, dining room tables. It didn't matter. I shook it, and then I stared at the desk to figure out which is going to work better. This desk costs an arm and a leg. Even with the gift certificate, it was an arm and a leg, and it better work. It better be the best desk that I've ever had. Thoroughly excited about this desk. So that is one of the best things that happened to me so far this week. A new desk is rolling in here. All right. So let me get to one other. Did you say that? That clearly is not directed at me. Glue and wood screw. No. Are you talking about? No. Neighbor Neil is okay. I would not say awesome. I would not say that. He's okay. He's okay. Brother, if I stood on this desk, the little legs would give out. I'll tell you that right now. The little legs will absolutely give out. So there was some news that came out today, and we're going to get to our first guest here in a moment. There's some news that came out today that I alluded to earlier in the show. It struck me initially as news when I read the headline. I literally got up from the chair that I was sitting in to go and read the news, because I read the headline. And then as I reread the headline and then read the article, there was no there. There was no there with this article that came out that basically says the Spawn movie is very, very active development. The Spawn movie in very, very active development, predicted 2025 release, according to Jason. As you read the article, there is no substance to this. There really is no meat to this thing. They don't have a finished script. The writer's strike is still ongoing. So I'm really not sure how this thing is in active development. And I poked a little fun at this headline, but the headline comes from a quote from Jason where he's like, very, very active development. I don't really know what that means. I mean, does it mean that he is noodling it? Is that what it means? The writer's strike is ongoing. People are talking about what's going on with the lead actor, Jamie Foxx. Is he healthy? Is he in the hospital? Is he not in the hospital? Like, I don't really understand how active development actually works, but maybe it's because I'm not in the movie industry. But what was interesting is that someone actually commented on the short or the reel that I uploaded on Instagram that says they have some insider information that there is more substance here. So I guess we'll have to wait for that substance to eventually be revealed, because as I read this article, there was really no substance there. So yeah, I was excited and then immediately disappointed as I read the article and realized there was not a whole lot of substance in it. As you all know, I tend to cover a lot of news. I tend to cover a lot of comic book related news, and I do these shorts and I do these reels on YouTube and Instagram whenever something exciting happens, right? There's various announcements that happen every single week, some weeks more so than others, but I put this content out and I spend a lot of time reading news articles. And one thing that I can tell you is that I will oftentimes try to find multiple articles that support something actually happening versus just relying upon a single article. And one of the things that frustrates me to no end is when I find a really good article that has a really good headline and I go to click on it and I cannot read the article. I can read the first paragraph. It is trapped behind a paywall. And I guess I get why companies do this. But unless it's an exclusive, I don't understand why you would put it behind the paywall. But that is one thing that really grates my cheese when there is news out there and I cannot access it, because I'm not gonna sign up to just read your article, right? Because I might be disappointed that there's actually no substance there, especially when I can go to multiple other news sources oftentimes and get the information that I need. But this idea of paying for information sometimes just grates my cheese. And I think that the guest that I am about to have on the show might also agree with that point of view. So I want to welcome to the show real quick my buddy Gene from Shortboxed. Gene, it is good to see you. How are you, brother? Oh, you are on mute, Gene. You may have muted yourself.
There you go.
No, there you go.
There we go.
In here.
I actually have a new headset, and what's cool is that if you flip it up, it mutes it.
You're fancy.
So it's like, yeah, I just still learning how to use this thing.
That's fancy, brother. It's good to see you, my friend. How are things?
Good. I will say, being stuck backstage over the last few minutes, it's not fun, because you guys are having this conversation and chat, and you're bringing up all these topics, and I'm sitting here wanting to chime in and add my 2 cents to all of these things, and it was just like, it feels like I'm like, just let me out. I have some comments on these things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the cool things about the live stream is that we tend to cover a wide range of topics, and I think people show up, to hear me ramble on and to hear from my great guests that come on the show, but they also just enjoy talking to one another. I think that is part of the fun of the live stream. So maybe we'll let you riff on a couple of things a little bit later on the show that you want to comment on. But is it fair to say, Gene, that you are not an advocate for paywalls, especially when you have to pay for information that is maybe publicly available? Is it safe for me to say that?
Yes, but there's a lot of context behind that, right? In your original example, in terms of like news and all that good stuff, obviously journalism is incredibly important, and I think people should pay to support journalists. Obviously, that is super important. But it's all relative. There's a lot of information out there, whether it's data or announcements and things like that, that everybody has access to freely, and forcing people to pay for access to information that's publicly available just doesn't really sit right with me. Not just me, but also BJ, CTO of Shortboxed and co-founder. Just, it helps if we give a little bit of context to sort of who we are, at least philosophically.
Please
BJ
do.
and
I would say I definitely agree with you that as a former journalist myself, I get it, right? But especially when the information is not exclusive, it is just generally available information, and you can literally look at the two articles and see that they were both pulled from the same press release that was issued.
Not
it's
okay.
Like, come on, brother. But I wanted to allow you to finish, to provide a little bit of backdrop on you and your co-founder over there.
Yeah, so BJ, CTO and co-founder of Shortboxed, and myself, we're hackers. We're both hackers. We've been our entire lives. We are technologists, and because of that, we are huge proponents of open source software, and we've both been very involved in the open source community for our entire careers, our entire professional careers before Shortboxed. And because of that, we obviously both believe in an open and free internet. And so, that should give you a little bit of context into sort of like where we stand philosophically, that, access to information, it should be free, and charging people for access to readily available information just doesn't sit right with us.
So you guys have been on a tear as of late. I feel like with all kinds of updates to the Shortbox app. I mean, it was already great when I first used it, what, in 2020, maybe, when we
2020.
did the beta. But it continues to evolve. You guys have adding new features time and time again. But one of the recent features that you rolled out was this price guide. It is a 100% free price guide that people can access. Is it that hacker mindset, that freedom of information type of philosophy that prompted you guys to create and roll out this pricing guide? Like, what was the motivation there?
What a great segue. Love that. But yes, that all of that context and history is why we rolled this out and made it completely free. We want to make sure that all collectors, sellers, dealers, all have a level playing field, that everyone has equal access to pricing data and sales data without having to pay for it. None of this information is private. It's all out there for free. When I say quote unquote this information, what I'm really referring to is sales history, recent sales. That's really what it comes down to at its most basic level. A lot of us, and when I say, collectors and such, we all know how to search eBay. We all know how to search for eBay and sort by sold listings. When I say we, I literally mean the people in chat right now in your community, because we're all seasoned collectors. In many cases, some of us are experts, in the hobby. But there's still a lot of very casual collectors who still don't know how to search on eBay or even filter by sold listings, and so they're at a disadvantage, and that's just not fair, because again, all the information is out there. We just want to make sure everyone has access to all the same information, and so just putting that out there for everyone. It was really, really important for us. Now, oh, go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
No, I was going to say, is there value to justify, a paid subscription for information? Sure, of course. There's a lot of different things there, but again, not in the absence of free access to that information.
Yep. Just like you're, when you said, paying the journalists because of the role that they play, I'm guessing you're probably okay if someone has all of these other services that they're adding on to the pricing guide, but the pricing guide in and of itself, because one of my big things is I don't know how the heck you buy or sell a comic without referencing a pricing guide. I don't know how you do it, because do you just decide that you have X amount of dollars in your pocket and the book costs Y and you can cover it? So you have to reference information. And I think that's what's great about what you guys are putting out. But for those that aren't familiar with the price guide that is now built into Shortbox, can you give folks, an elevator pitch, a 30-second elevator pitch as to what the function actually is?
Yeah, luckily this is very straightforward. So when you open up the Shortbox app, again, just for a little bit more context here, for those who may not be familiar with Shortbox, I don't want to assume that it's an app for buying and selling comic books. It's a marketplace app, and we just rolled out a free price guide tool. So you spin up the app, you go to the price guide page, and all you do is you type in the title of the book you're looking for and the issue number, and we send you a list of results. So let's say you're searching for Hulk 181. You pick the top result, and if you click on that, then we show you a bunch of recent sales across multiple grades. And if you click on one of those grades, it'll expand and show you all the recent sales within that grade range. So again, very, very simple, easy to use for any collector out there that's used any other tools before or has done any sort of research and looking up pricing data. It's very, very intuitive and straightforward. We kind of just removed all the fluff and all the noise and just kept it very, very simple and easy to use.
There you go. So we're actually looking at what Crow and you guys put up on shortbox.com. This is actually a screenshot of the price guide directly inside the app. And across the top, you have Iron Man, you have your issue 1, then you have your search button there. But down below, you actually see some of the results. And correct me if I'm wrong, what we see there is basically the 9.8 or whatever the highest grade is, all the way down to the lowest grade, the most recent sales price, and the most recent sales date, and then also total sales. Is that correct? Is that what we're looking at there?
Absolutely right. And that was by design, because we're collectors ourselves, and so sometimes what all we want access to is we just want to see what the last sale was for a particular grade. Something that's all you need, you know, especially if it's a popular book like an Iron Man 1 or a Hulk 181, you know, or so on and so forth. So, you know, the search results show all the grades from 9.8 all the way to 0.5. We show you the most recent sale and the date of that, because sure, you could show last sale, but if it's 3 years ago, you know, it doesn't really help you. But you can't do it on the screen now. But if you tap on, let's say, you know, the 9.2, it'll expand and it'll go to a separate page that shows you all the recent sales for that particular grade.
Yeah, which I think is really cool. I mean, the interface for what you guys have always put together, I think has always been really clean. This is simple. It is straightforward. Like, it is all right there with a couple of, taps of the screen. The information is there. I read that the price guide as it exists right now contains about 1 million transactions. And these transactions, and correct me if I'm wrong, have taken place both on and off of the Shortbox app. What other, and I think you've already hit on it once, what other data sources are you guys pulling into this, right? So you have your own data, which is robust, but what other marketplaces are you pulling into these search results?
Yeah, so that is correct. We have over 1 million sales tracked, and the vast majority of the sales are all from the last 3 years almost. And I can get into that a little bit more. But in terms of the data sources, obviously all the Shortbox sales are all on there. We also have extensive and comprehensive eBay data, which everyone here knows is they are the biggest marketplace in the world, and so eBay alone makes up a massive chunk of that. And then we are also pulling and tracking sales on other publicly available data sources. I won't name names, but we're getting a lot of data from a lot of different places. But the vast majority of them are from Shortbox and eBay.
There we go. And I think that helps, right? When there's insight into where the data actually comes from. And at least we know two of the sources, right? We know from your platform, which I think is great and makes perfect sense, but then also eBay helps. And then the data, the 1 million transactions worth that you have in there comes from the last 3 years. Do you think
Mostly.
that you guys will pull in previous to that? Or is that just a line in the sand that you guys have decided to draw? Like, what's the thought there?
Yeah, so when I mentioned the last 2-3 years, most of the data is coming. About 75% of the data is most relevant from the last 2 to 3 years, and that's actually what matters the most. I would argue we do have data that does go back into the early aughts. Sometimes as early as 2001, 2010. So it does go back quite a bit as far as that we can get that, but we would argue, and I would argue, that collectors don't necessarily care about what something sold for in 2001 or 2010, let alone 2019. We all pay attention to the market, and what we're looking for mostly is recent sales data. And so majority of the sales come from the last 2 years because frankly, that's what's most important. So that's where we focused on building our model was just from recent sales. And so again, there is novelty, in seeing what something sold for years ago. The reality of it is, when you're looking up the price of a Hulk 181, you're probably not even scrolling back more than 2 months just because there's so much data out there.
I'm a nerd. I go deep, brother.
Yeah.
But no, I think to your point, most people are probably going to be accessing this pricing guide because they're trying to buy something or they're trying to see whether they can afford it. So having, data from 5, 6, 7 years ago might not be of interest, but knowing the most recent sales to allow them to figure out, is this a good buy? Is this not a good buy? I think that is very helpful data.
And that's
one of
who
the
it's
other
built
questions
for.
I have for you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's who it's built for. It's for folks that are buying or selling, right? If you want
Yep.
to list a book for sale, you need to know how much to list it for. So you need a
There you
source to
go.
be able to do that. And I would argue there are probably more newer sellers out there who simply just don't know how to accurately price their book. And so obviously this is a tool that helps them too.
There you go. How often is the data updated? Because that's an important thing, right? How
Yeah.
often are you guys updating the data? And is there any human intervention, right? Because eBay, eBay sales don't always go through. Sometimes things are the transaction is not completed. The book has ended up relisting. So how often is it updated? And is there any human intervention to make sure transactions are completed?
Yes, it's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So daily, it's updated every single day. We are tracking thousands and thousands of sales, both from Shortbox, eBay, or other sources. But it's tens of thousands of sales a month. So every single day, the model just gets stronger and more accurate every single day. Now, uh, every single day we get thousands of sales that are on there. But one thing that I want to add to this is we do show recent sales, just sales data, so you can just see, the most recent sales.
Yeah.
Another component of this, not necessarily in the price guide, but in the product listings, we also have our FNV, our fair market value sort of model that we also show, and both of these are related. So we have the price guide to just show you, hey, here are all the recent sales. But on the actual product listings, we show you like an FMV range. I'm sure I saw chat mention, the dots, the color, the green for a good deal, yellow, red. That's essentially what I'm referring to, and that gets updated every week. And so there's a lot of data coming in, just nonstop, 24 hours a day. Now, in terms of the human intervention, so the data that we're collecting is just piped in from multiple sources. So we're not manually collecting the data. It's not someone just going to websites and filling out a spreadsheet and doing that. Like, we're actually ingesting a lot of good data, but we also still review data points. So if we see outliers that are very obvious that we have to catch, but you also have to realize there's thousands of these coming in a day. It's really, really hard. Admittedly, it's really, really hard to audit thousands and thousands of sales and double checking them and making sure they're accurate. But there are certain things that we can do where we have flags to make sure, like, hey, let's look at this to make sure it's right. So basically what we're looking at is for outliers, right? If the last 10 data points we have on a particular book all fall within a specific range, and then suddenly we get one that's 50% over or under, that would flag it, and that would allow us to kind of look at it and say, hey, was this a newsstand? Was it a Mark Jewelers insert? Was it something like that? So there is a human element in some cases, but again, once you have a human element in things, again, we're software people, so we tried to minimize the human element as much as possible. You still miss things, right? Admitted, like the model and our data is still growing and evolving every single day, so we try and catch as much as we can. One way that we're hopefully going to utilize and leverage the community through this is, we do have another update coming out next week, and one of the features is we're actually adding basically a reporting flag on every product listing. So if you're looking, again, I'm going to keep using Hulk 181 as an example. You see Hulk 181.
You're going to make that book spike in searches. That's what's going.
That's it's this undervalued key that nobody knows about. So let's say looking at the sales and you see one that's obviously way off that we didn't catch it. Users can just flag it, and then you send it to us and say, hey, can you look at this? And again, that's just a way to go back to humans make a lot of mistakes and we won't be able to catch anything. But adding this feature to the app will allow us to hopefully catch more, at scale, because sometimes things are just going to fall through the cracks, and obviously having clean data is super important, especially when you're talking about pricing data.
So let's talk about that. There was a lot there in that response, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to it all, but there was a lot of really good stuff in there. Accuracy of data. That is all, and the prices. That is always a challenge where I get people, even to this day. I looked it up here. I looked it up there. The prices are not the same. Which is more accurate? Which is the best pricing guy? That is the question that I get. And the struggle that I always have is that the pricing guides pull from different sources. So you can't compare an apple to an apple and say, this one's right, this one's wrong. But how would you respond to the accuracy question that you are going to get asked? And what is your definition for accuracy, right? Like your personal definition or the company's definition for accuracy.
Yeah, for accuracy, it's essentially, is this what the book actually sold for? Period. That's it. 99% of the cases, we have a high confidence level that is correct. Whether it's an auction ended on eBay, there's a high confidence level that those are correct. For listings that are on Shortboxed, that's 100% accuracy rating, because we're the ones that sold it, so we know. But there are some edge cases which some other platforms have trouble with it, and it's not their fault. This is a technical limitation on eBay, actually. So a specific example is, and this is a huge problem that we're investigating and trying to solve for also, is that best offer books. That's an issue. When a book sells on eBay that's sold for best offer, a lot of cases the number that eBay will report is the original asking price and not what actually the person offered and sold for. And that's actually really hard. And that's a technical limitation on eBay's. So that's another example of something that we're going to look for, right? So another flag that we have is, was this a best offer sale? Then those automatically get flagged. And in most cases, we just remove them just because, sometimes, again, if it's a book like Hulk 181 or another, I need a new popular, like an ASM 300,
ASM 110, brother. Okay. The first appearance of the Gibbon. You can't go wrong there. Go ahead.
There's a lot of sales. There's a lot of sales of that where, removing that one that may or may not be accurate doesn't really affect the model
Affect the
because it
flow.
might be one out of, maybe there's 20 sales in the past week. Removing that one isn't actually going to affect that model. So in those cases, we'll remove them.
And I can tell you that the best offers are a pain because you have to go
It's
to,
pain.
your seller thing and tear a peek, and you have to look at it, and then you have to compare the images because the data is not always good. And it's like, is this the same book? You have to zoom in. Like, it's a
Right.
real pain when that happens.
It's
So
real quick.
yeah,
That's actually another huge sort of technological challenge as well, because on eBay, they do not have well, I don't want to get too technical, but they don't have a structured database of comic books. So when you're looking at eBay and someone says, "Oh, an ASM 110," software actually doesn't know, is a title ASM or is it Amazing Spider-Man? Oh, is
yep.
it from 1964 or is it from 1996? And so there's a lot of data cleanup that has to be done. And what we've done on our back end, again, I don't want to get too technical on this, is we've built a very, very complete and comprehensive structured database for comic books.
Mm.
And we have a way to sort of pattern match between our database and what we're getting from other sources to make sure that, hey, this is from ASM 110, this is an ASM 300, this is a Hulk 181, or whatever it is. And that allows us to keep a lot of the data super clean.
There you go. For folks that are coming in a little late, I am talking with Gene from Shortboxed about the new price guide that they've rolled out. 100% free price guide available on the Shortboxed app. There should be, if not yet, a link in the description of this if you guys want to download it and check it out. Again, it is 100% free. Gene, one of the things that I noticed when I was playing around with the price guide and searching, was that all of the books there are CGC books. Is there a plan? And I think you have, like, I didn't show it on screen, but you have not just the prices for, the 9.8 down to whatever the low grade happens to be, but you also have census data in there as well. You guys are sucking in the census data, which I think is great, but all of the books are CGC. Do you think you all are going to also do something similar for CBCS, or will you just focus on CGC?
So the short answer is yes, we will eventually. The longer answer is a little bit more complicated than that. So it is all CGC sales, and the
Yep.
census data is all CGC. We do have an official partnership with CGC, and they actually allow us to pull all their census data, which is why we're able to display all that census data in app. So it's
There
just
you go.
shout out to our friends and partners over at CGC for allowing us to access and share their data. But with CBCS, again, that's another technical challenge. Well, first off, no surprise, there are far less CBCS books sold compared to CGC. That's
Yep.
you could probably have an entire show discussing that for reasons X, Y, and Z, which we probably don't have even time to get into. But first off, there are far less CBCS books sold than CGC. So in terms of impact to the market, it's realistic. It's negligible.
Yep.
Even not even including CBCS as much as people want to argue that it's important. Well, it makes up single-digit percentage of the entire market, which isn't enough to statistically skew the data otherwise. And also on the technical side, CBCS for whatever reason, they also have very, very how do I say this? Their data is just not clean, and it makes it really hard to go one-to-one comparing a CGC book with something that matches our database that matches CBCS's book. And so it's kind of a mess, which we're working on. So the longer answer is we are working on it, and that is something that's super important to us too, and not just CBCS. You're probably going to ask this question next, I think, but with raw books.
Absolutely, that question, because you guys just rolled out the new feature that allows people to start selling raw books. So yeah, I'm going there next. Absolutely.
Yes. So with raw books, again, short answer is yes. Obviously, we want to have pricing data for raw books, but everyone can imagine how hard that is, because someone's raw 6.0 grade does not equal a CGC 6.0 grade or a CBCS 6.0 grade. On top of that, it's not going to sell for the same as a CGC 6.0, and a CGC 6.0 won't sell for the same as a CBCS 6.0, and so on and so forth. And then you have just eye appeal. There's all these different factors. And so it's really, really hard. But with us, recently launching raw books, over time, we'll be collecting a lot of data, a lot of grading data that we will hopefully be able to model against our CGC and CBCS models. Essentially what it is building a predictive pricing model and for fair market value for these types of books based on a host of other factors. Again, without getting too nerdy here, with our FMV model, we have a lot of factors that make up our fair market value sort of algorithm. you mind if I go down this route a little bit? It's actually
and
pretty
honestly,
cool.
that's one of the things that I was thinking about when you were talking in one of your answers a little while ago. There was a lot there, and FMV is always fair market value is always a big question, and it's like, so what the heck goes into that equation, right? There is a lot, including time, that gets built into there. So if you can help us to understand how you guys have structured your fair market value number, I personally would be interested in that.
Yeah, it's a big question because a lot of people haven't been able to get it right, over time, which is why, again, it was a challenge that we're, facing and wondering, can we do better?
Yeah,
Can we actually build, a predictive model in terms of calculating FMV for a book in a given grade? So again, there's a lot of factors that make up the FMV algorithm, and we actually have multiple models there. We have multiple models that we can back into. The most obvious ones are let's take a specific book. Let's say quantity of sales data, the actual raw number, how many sales do we have of this book in this grade? Obviously, having more is better than having one data point,
yeah,
right? So the more you have, the better it is. The recency of the sales. How recent are these sales and how many are there? So
yeah,
you're going to weight a sale that happened yesterday more than something that happened 6 months ago. So
correct.
there's a weight that has to be played on both the recency of the sale as well as the raw number of sales that are there. Obviously, the value of each of the sales, that's an obvious one. How much did it actually sell for? Obviously, the grade, that's another important one. Also, what's interesting here is the era of the book. Is it a Silver Age book? Is it
Mm,
a Modern Age book? Is it a Bronze Age or a Copper Age? And the reason why is because, again, we built this model around literally millions of data points, and you can kind of see a clear trend between that's different between Silver Age books and, let's say, Modern Age books in terms of the values and the tiers that they jump up in value accordingly.
okay.
And so it's really, really interesting to sort of see that's probably a separate conversation, and we should have another conversation because I think that's actually something super, super fascinating
Th-
to
this whole
dig
thing is
into.
fascinating to me. Like I was referring to it as time, and you refer to it as recency when it's the exact same thing. Because to your point, a sale that happened like yesterday should be more impactful on the FMV than one that happened a while ago, right? The quantity of sale, like you hit on all the points that I think go into it. And I personally would like to peel the onion back on that a little bit more because, again, so much of this comes down to what the heck should I pay?
Mhm.
What is a fair price? What should I sell it for? Like at the end of the day, I need to understand that so that I can figure out if I want to buy it, if I want to sell it, if I want to list it, right? And I think that more transparency we can have around some of that data and some of that math, I think that gives people comfort that, yeah, this is an accurate source for me to tap into,
Yeah,
right? This is a good platform for me to be able to buy and sell my comics on. So,
that's everything. Everyone you have to trust the data, right? And that's what we put a lot of work and effort into this. And this is sort of going full circle. Is that this is why all this information just has to be available to everyone for free, and not gated behind a paywall.
yep.
Just because it needs to be a level playing field. Buyers need the same access to the same information as sellers do.
Hmm.
That's how you get a lot of I'm not going to, I'll just say sketchy sellers who try and prey on, less informed buyers that just try and, put one over on them.
Yep.
Well, that's not okay. That's just not good for the long-term health
Any of us.
of the
And
hobby
that's why you have to have data.
right.
That's why you have to look at something and trust something, or else bad actors will take advantage of you. And the comic book community is fantastic. But anytime money is involved,
Yeah.
there's always some people or a group of people that will try to get over it. That's just human nature. And you have to prepare yourself with as much information as possible. So, Gene, one last question I have for you, brother. There's a handful of people here listening to this conversation. They're listening to you, talk about the price guide that is built into Shortbox, and they're trying to figure out, is this something I even want to use? Right? I've been using this other thing for years. I trust it. It works for me. I don't see a reason to change. Other people are like, I don't know if I want to get on Shortbox. What would you say to people that might be watching this, that might be on the fence, that might be unsure? What would you say to them about what it is that you guys are trying to do at Shortbox as a whole, and specifically with the price guide?
Uh, yeah, that's a great question. You know what? When it comes down to it, it's free. Try it. It's free. It's a free tool. You know, I hate to sound like an infomercial or like a salesman, but it's like a no risk, free tool that you can use and play around with. That's all I ask for. Is just play around with it and see if it works for you.
Yeah.
See if it works for the books that you're looking up. Look at books and see if our fair market value is accurate. And
If it
you know,
makes sense,
I would
right?
challenge you that you know, the vast majority of them are. But if they aren't, with our next update, we'll allow you to flag it and let us know, hey, this is something's wrong with this, or maybe you know we're including a newsstand sale in it when it's not a newsstand, or vice versa, right? But again, it's a free tool, and you know, with regards to other platforms, other tools that folks are using, I've used them all, you know, for many years in the past. If it works for you, that's great, and if it's providing value, that's great, and there's no need to change there, unless you hate the idea of paying for it, right? If you love everything about it except the fact that you have to pay for it, then you know, download Shortbox and try it out for free and see if it works for you. And that's really it. And maybe if you're not using any of these tools because they charge you for it, well, here you go. Now there's a free option for you, and that's really, you know, what it's about. You know, there's probably a lot, not probably, you know, I will bet on this, there are way more people who don't use those platforms because they're gated, you know, behind a
I
paywall.
don't disagree. I
Right?
don't disagree. And again, that's why I'm always surprised where I'm like, you don't just want to pay for it. So that, you know, and people don't. People will spend the time going through eBay sold items. And I guess I get it. But now they have a free app. And I love your response, brother. I say that all the time. It's free. Just say please and thank you, and let's just move on. Right. But it's not just a free app, I mean, or a service. It is one that works pretty darn well, and I think may actually help enhance someone's buying and selling and collecting. And so, like I said, there will be a link down in the description if it isn't already in there. But Gene, where can people get a hold of you, brother? Do you want to give any shout outs for where people can get in touch with you, get in touch with Shortbox? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, real quick before I get into that, you know, just with regards to the tool and everything, is that, you know, our mission, you know, really as a company, again, we're all collectors. I hope that's obvious. You know, we're all collectors here. We're building this, and it comes from a place of love for the hobby. For all of us, this is a lifelong passion. I'm sure for many people in chat as well. You know, our mission, our goal is, how do we make comics more accessible? How do we make comic collecting more mainstream? You know, how do we build for the current generation, the generations after us? And it really comes down to building the right tools and platforms that we think are really going to usher this industry forward. And obviously, first and foremost, again, going full circle, is just access to information. You know, leveling the playing field, democratizing access to free information, just so everyone is happy and everyone is on the same footing. And so that's really the reason why we're doing this and why we're making it free. We've had a lot of customers when we launched it that asked us, "Hey, this is great. You know, why don't you charge, you know, $12 a month to access?" Well, you know, we don't want to. That's not why we exist. You know, obviously we are a business, right? We are in the business of facilitating transactions for people like an eBay. But for us, you know, giving this access to information for free, building this tool for folks to use on their own without asking for anything, is really what it is. And hopefully, you know, you come and use the pricing tool, and hey, you find a book that you want to buy, or you find a platform that you want to sell on that's not eBay, you know, or something else that you're using. And so that's really what it comes down to. Now, in terms of, you know, access or reaching out to us, we're super active on social media, you know, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter,
Discord.
all of them. Discord. Join our Discord for any of you Discord folks out there who just want a chat room just to hang out. I know Reggie's in there; he chimes in every so often.
Every so often.
We're active on Discord, all the major social media channels. And again, if I'm open, if anyone wants to reach out, you can always reach me directly. My email is just Gene, Gene @Shortbox. I love talking to our customers. I love talking to the community. I love meeting folks at cons. We're going to be at San Diego Comic-Con in a few weeks, so anyone there who's watching this, just pay attention to our socials. We'll share our booth number and all that good stuff. We're going to be putting on a party at San Diego, so keep an eye out for that. So
You get free swag at the booth.
We'll get free swag at the booth.
The party is awesome. I was there last year, so you cannot go wrong with that. But Gene, I want to thank you, brother, for coming on and helping educate us a little bit on the price guide that is built in the Shortbox. I love the app. I spend a healthy amount of time on it, looking at things, and I also use a lot of the data that you guys send over to me for video content, which I think is great because you guys have such a large user base. You
We're data
so
nerds.
much great data.
It's like we just want to give it out there,
and it's like you guys send it to me, I leverage it, and it informs the community, and I think that that's wonderful. But with that said, brother, thank you very much for coming on. I will definitely be in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, Reggie. Bye, chat.
Take care. All right. So huge shout out to Gene. I will tell you, one of the things that always bugged me back in the day when I was a much younger collector is that I always felt like the dealers and even the comic shop knew way more than me about comics, about buying comics. And as a result of that, I always felt a little disadvantaged, right? I never sold comics until much later because I never really knew how much to sell the comics for, right? I think that the day that we are in now, we have so much great information at our fingertips, right? We have the ability to know what something is worth. We have so many platforms for being able to figure out what's happening in the market. And I think what's great about what Shortbox is doing is they are putting some of this information out there for free. This idea of leveling the playing field, I think is wonderful. I really do. And I think, it is advantageous for us all when we have more information and people don't feel like they've been taken advantage of by somebody, because we're all looking at data and we're all informed and we're making more informed decisions. That's what a free market is all about. So shout out to Gene for coming on and hanging out with me just a little bit. Absolutely appreciate him. We already spoke about the Spawn thing. The other crazy news that popped off this week was the fact that we have a new Superman. We have a new Superman and a new Lois Lane. When this news dropped, I was all over this. I had all kinds of alerts set up to give me updates on this thing. And there have been so many memes, so many posts, so many memes that have popped up on Instagram about David Cornsweat. I don't know how any of this is going to turn out. I really don't, but I am keeping my fingers and toes crossed that the DCU is able to hit the ground and make some magic happen. I am so hopeful that this is going to turn out well. I was so involved in this that I'm looking up this man's stats. David Cornsweat, I'm looking up his stats. I think his guy's like 6'4", and unfortunately, I think he's like 189 pounds, which is undersized for him. Because a lot of the comments I started to see were, people saying he needs to put on some weight. There is no doubt about that, but he has time. He has time, and fingers crossed, with James Gunn at the helm and Peter Safran helping to produce, we are going to get some fantastic content out of DC. That is my hope, and I will say just give them a chance. Give them a chance. And let's see what they are able to do. All right, with that said, do I have anything else? I was going to get to some comments. There were some comments that were left on videos that I wanted to talk about, but I spent too much time engrossed in the conversation with Gene for me to be able to get to some of that stuff. So maybe next week we will tap into it again. For those folks that showed up late, Isolation issue 4 has been wrapped up. All of the pages have been drawn and inked and lettered. The book right now is sitting with the proofreader. We are keeping all of our fingers, our collective fingers and toes crossed that we are going to get this book over to the printer in a timely manner, and they are going to be able to print this book so that we can get it out of here. We should still be on time to distribute Isolation issue 4 in July. That is the goal. That is the goal, and we are on track. And I'm excited for you guys to see this book. With that said, we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation. And again, shout out to Gene. If you guys have not checked out the Shortbox app, I encourage you guys to do so today. There should be a link down in the description. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
Straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms of pure souls having them conversations. Synergy and combinations. You flying, we waiting. Indian style in the gold temple of greatness. When you follow the North Star, you coming for the education. This is my audio book. These rhymes are just the imagery. More like an audio graphic novel or a memoir about a young MC making timeless music with his mentor. I pray y'all grasp my letters that was meant to last forever.